everyone. I want to start with a question. How many of you use a search engine when they need to find information about something? Okay. How many of you find thousands of pages usually to answer their questions, but it's hard to find the correct answer that best fits you? Perfect. Well, that happens not only to you. You're young and you know how, we are young. We know how to find information, but it's very much harder for parents who need to find information for their children to do that when they need to decide where to send their children, leave their children with people they don't know. It's kind of scary. You need to find the best option, the closest one to your home, the cheapest or the best providing service for the money you pay. So imagine that you're in San Francisco and on the street you see Jane. Jane is a mother, around 35 years old. She has a small boy who is really willing to start going to karate lessons in the autumn. So Jane wants to fulfill that dream of her child. It's extracurricular activity, and we all know that they're very useful for children and fit perfectly on a college application, although the child is small now. So Jane needs to find this information. She goes just like you, online, in Google, search, but there are so many results she has no idea which one to choose.
And on the other side, you meet Tom, who is a karate club owner, and he's having this problem. His occupancy rate is very low. So we have a problem here, and what is the solution?
It's Kids.com. Kids.com, as you already told us, is a platform that name is already used, so we are using it only for educational purposes. We are not pretending to have any copyrights on that. Kids.com is a web-based community where parents and providers meet each other and connect in order to make the best match. Kids.com saves parents money, saves time, and the most important thing, it's very reliable because it contains feedback from other parents who use the same services. So we tried to find out whether this platform would be suitable for the American market. In particular, we decided to check whether it would be useful in San Francisco because we decided to start in California as the youngest of age state in the US and also as the state where the most children are situated. And we started conducting interviews here on the campus. We are continuing with these interviews. Also, we did an online survey which is continued to be updated and we continue to receive answers. What you see on the screen is one of the answers of our online survey. We up to now have like 25% answer rate. And it turns out that our platform could actually be used by parents. So we have two main groups. It's on one hand users, on the other hand customers. It sounds a little bit complicated, but the idea is to combine these two groups in order to match them and take the best out of each of them and the connection between them. As to the users, I already told you about Jane. So we are targeting working, busy parents, or it's not important to be working, but they should be busy, and every parent has a lot of things to do when he has to raise a child. Their kids are under 14. The reason is that, as all of us know, when you go above 14, you start to make your own decisions, so you don't listen to your parents where to go and where not to that much. Also, we are targeting cities with population above 0.6 million in the United States. Up to today, that would be around 30 cities. The users are internet users as well, because we are web-based, and also they're willing to involve their children in extracurricular activities. As to the customers, here you see a list. It's not exhaustive. It's a customer of ours is every provider of extracurricular activities in any way, in any sense that you can imagine, starting from lessons of arts, music, and continuing on with sports, camps, and so on. The market size is again a combination between the customers and the users. We have 120,000 children in San Francisco, and each year $1,100 are spent average on a child for extracurricular activities, which makes a market of 132 million spent per year. And on the other hand, we have 1,200 providers of extracurricular activities in the United States. In San Francisco only, because our first year is starting only in San Francisco, and then we are going to California. As to the strategies, since we have two main groups we target, we have users and we have customers, we have different strategies for those groups. Attracting new users, mainly we will attract users through internet because we are web-based, so we will use social media. Also, we will use blogs on parenting, and we will make partnerships with bloggers. We will go also the old-fashioned way, having leaflets, handing them, and also having them on school boards. We will create partnerships with schools, parenting organizations, and we will use the snowball effect, both online by the option to refer a friend, and offline by the word of mouth.
All right, and when it comes to providers, it's key that we will have enough providers before we start attracting users. And this is why we have our approach will be direct for the first 120 providers. And we expect to have those 120 providers of extracurricular activities within 6 months. This may sound a little bit ambitious, but we are 4 people and divided on 26 weeks for these 6 months. That means that 4 people has to acquire 5 new providers each week, which is a very achievable goal. So once we are done with these 120 providers, those will be like the big names in San Francisco, we will switch to cold calls and emails. What are our competitors? Of course, Google, Yelp, and Collar.com. But of course, we wouldn't be here and convince you how viable our idea is if we didn't have a competitive advantage. And as you can see, we have analyzed the strengths and the weaknesses of our idea and of course our competitors. And our main differentiation is that we will provide cost leadership to our customers. When we approach customers, we will approach them with their problem because they have problems reaching their public. And the whole idea is that if they want to appear on our platform, they will have to provide discount to end users from their standard rates. Our revenue model is pay-per-click, and we will charge 75 cents our providers if our users click on their websites through ours. Now, DMA seems like a lot of money, but using the Facebook segmentation, we found out that Facebook companies, if you want to advertise through Facebook, a company would pay between 60 cents and $1.17. And of course, we're talking about great segmentation when it comes to sports centers who would like to find their customers. So we think 75 cents is a fair price. Here are our financial projections. It's very important to say that those projections are without any investment in mind. Those are very conservative, and the break-even point is at the second year, third quarter. Who is the team behind the idea? Well, we have Eva here, who is our sales consultant. She has done this here in America, and she has a great experience in that. Then we have Teddy, which is our marketing person. We have, of course, Miwa, who is handling our legal issues, and I am going to deal with business development. And of course, we have a rockstar advisor, which is Professor Matawan. And is this a go idea? What do you think? Yeah. Thank you.
So, wow, what improvement from the first day. I think you've come a long, long way. Your presentation skills have improved dramatically, and you got our attention with both the poll and with the sort of persona description. That was a really nice thing to do. That being said, timing-wise, you spent way too much time before you got to the concept. It was almost 2 minutes in before you said, this is our concept. And so waiting. One sentence on the concept. It should have been within the first few seconds. This is the concept. The second thing is that there was so much discussion around the users. You almost thought the users were paid, the parents were the payers. You really needed to say more about who's paying you. So how many of, there's 1,200 of these providers. Where are they? Who are they? How are you going to reach them? Why would they agree to sign up for you? I mean, again, I thought the transaction model was that they would give you a discount if somebody signed up. Is that right?
Yeah,
And that was never explained.
based on our feedback from the angel investors
Yeah.
2 days ago, we switched to
Pay-per-click.
Yeah.
Okay. So I still don't quite understand how you're going to make money.
Well, if you are a provider
Yeah.
and you would like to participate in our platform, once the users start looking for your product,
Yeah.
and if they go from our website to your website,
Yeah.
you will pay us 75 cents, which is a very
Okay.
modest amount.
Okay. Angela?
I think that the other groups should thank you for such a good job. Should put me in a pretty good mood to start off with. I agree with Candy. It took a little bit too long. The other thing I would say is this is a great concept to use what's known as FUD in the marketing world. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So instead of saying how many of you search on Google, how many of you search for your kids, the more important thing is how many people, and maybe not in this group because no one here other than us have kids, but how many people in this group have children or have had young children, have tried to find activities for them to do, are always concerned about, is that a good school? What is the, use karate as an example. Are the karate instructors good instructors and so on? That's the fear and the uncertainty that you're trying to get at with parents, right? And then you come along with a platform that allows parents to do research on these activities with other parent ratings and comments so that you can find the best and the safest place for your child. So you never talked about safety. And I would think that, if you get into the heads of people, people with young children, that's the biggest fear and concern that they have. That first time you drop your kid off at a gymnastics class or a karate class or a soccer game, is that coach a nice coach? Are the people that work there good people? Does the place have a good rating for safety, or have children been injured there, right? That's what you're trying to uncover. You have a two-sided model. So you have to have two value propositions. You have to have a value proposition for the parents. You have to have a value proposition for the companies, right? And so think about that in San Francisco. And to Candy's point, you have to talk about why either side wants to come to it. You did that a little bit, but I think it can be even stronger and more clear. And on the differentiation point, I thought that was a little weak. I think that I don't know much about the other real competitor. I don't think Yelp is really a competitor here, but that Coddler, was it?
Yeah.
Go into just a little bit more detail about what they offer and how they offer it, and then talk about, what you offer and how you offer it and where the differentiation points are. And I would also challenge you to revisit your revenue model. Go take a look at Angie's List. Are you familiar with that? So go take a look at Angie's List. It's a model that people are familiar with. It's a model that works. And I think you should test this, but I believe that parents would be willing to pay a subscription fee to be in something that they can rely upon for very, very good and solid advice about the activities that they're dropping their children off to. Just like with Angie's List, people pay a subscription fee because they feel that, kind of open platforms aren't as reliable. The fact that people are paying to be a part of it gives them the sense that this is more reliable information about the plumber, the electrician, the builder. And people are very willing to pay that fee to be a member of Angie's List. And, you know, it's a public company now. They're doing pretty well. So I would take a look at that. But very, very good job.
No?
Just back on the competitors, that was one that concerned me. I love the lists, and a lot of you do this where you line up competitors and then you do X's, but the problem with that, you don't get into the details, you don't get into the nuances. And as I look at that, I start thinking, well, across the board, you're only different. Every other competitor has one of the things that you have. And that's concerning. I don't think it captures the value. Just a comment on so pay-per-click, I think you could have spent more time explaining why. It's the research that the team did, because I was talking to them, was this is the same model that TripAdvisor uses, it's the same model. So Urban Spoon and some of these others follow this same model. So it's a tried model. I think you should talk about that so that people understand that model. On your comment, we went back and forth about the subscription. And the reason they left the subscription off was because in the survey, they asked parents how often their kids change or choose activities, and it was once a year.
Once a year.
So there was a concern that if you're only going on once or twice a year, maybe they wouldn't want to pay a monthly subscription, but it's good to go back and, because there's that balance of if you pay, you do feel like it's higher quality, so it's always a fight. But it was interesting to get that feedback from the survey and start taking it into account when you're making revenue model decisions. It was kind of fun.
Or if they do the Netflix model, where first month is free, but then they give the credit card. I mean, it's not, but you know, and a lot of people are just staying for
They
a
just
while.
keep paying.
Yeah, and then until they figure it out that they're paying, your services actually become valuable.
Yeah, but that's kind of dishonest way to charge customers.
So, perhaps, but you know,
But
a
it's
lot of
proven
businesses
dishonest,
here.
right?
Yeah, but it's, there is an ethical issue.
A lot of the
there.
businesses here, I mean, it's basically, it's your personal responsibility to kind of monitor your, I'm just saying, think about different models.
At a minimum, you've got some room for some more market research.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's worth going back and also just revisiting and understanding why people choose something like Angie's List, because you don't hire a plumber every, several times, maybe once a year. So you may have to broaden out the offering to, even sort of the local sports teams and ratings of coaches, which could be very interesting.
So go back to the list of providers just for a second, because that's where I really thought you needed to dig in. Is who are the providers? You had camps, I don't remember what you had. Sports centers, art centers, okay. So, and this goes back to market research too. So you need to talk to these folks and really get a handle on where their students come from and their participants. And, because, I mean, just speaking as, personal experience, if the parents are working, there's probably a high likelihood that they may be more interested in camps during the summer. So there's going to be some seasonality there. The second thing is if you have more than one child, that might make a difference too. So you might want to see whether or not the users, sort of likelihood of participating varies depending upon those two things, the number of children in the family and whether the parents are working. And so that goes to finding out from the providers or the customers exactly who their participants are. So you go to the camp and you say, well, who are the people that come? Do they come every year? Do they come once in a while? Do all the children come? Is it, a little bit more on that? And they can help you with that.
I mean,
That'll
and
help
again,
them
that
understand
can be, to deal with the seasonality of these types of things, that could be, like, maybe under arts you're considering this, but there's all kinds of music instructors, and
Oh,
finding the
sure.
right music instructor for your kid
Oh, yeah.
is a real challenge. You also have tutors.
Yeah.
You
That's a whole
can
nother-
go into a whole other branch where you can start to rate tutors,
Yeah.
or SAT prep groups, or math camps. I mean, there are so many potential customers on that side
Yeah.
that this could be enormous. And to my knowledge, there's no one doing it at the level of Angie's List, for this. And yet, if you go, the best place, by the way, to do research on this would be the sidelines of any ball field in San Francisco. right? Just look for the minivans and go talk to the moms. Right? And I would say if you get somebody to do a little bit of artwork and show what you're doing and say to people, it's just like Angie's List, but for children's activities, people will get it just like that. And I think you'll start to get better information.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
Great job.
Great job.
Thank you.